When I put up a video last week describing my first 24 hours with the new Garmin Fenix 7X that I am loving, I warned anybody thinking of getting one to first check out the Garmin Epix Gen 2, also launched last week, because it's got a gorgeous looking display and it might well be the better device for you. I had no need to see an Epix in the flesh because my sports watch requirements are this. Would it look the business arm wrestling the CIA?
Had enough?
Does it look out of place if you had to play goat football? And is it an appropriate thing to have on your wrist while whizzing around in Airwolf? And this answers yes to all three. This is and looks like a hardcore tool for serious people getting tough stuff done. And that doesn't require fancy pants displays, no matter how pretty they are. Now, I know what you're going to be thinking. Mark, you're a vegan, is goat football really something you should be promoting? And also maybe, are you sure you don't want to actually see the Epix? No, I wasn't. So I went and bought one. And I can tell you straight away, I wasn't promoting goat football. I was just saying, if you had to play it. The Epix Gen 2. So this could be a very short video because one, I knew 10 seconds after I took this out of the box that I was keeping the Fenix. And two, my only real objective was to get an Airwolf clip in. I did that already. But let's dig deeper because even though this is not for me, having had a play with it now, I can see where some people would definitely be better off with the Epix. Now first, and real important, my thoughts on whom I prefer one of these devices over the other are based primarily on aspects of living with these devices in the real world. That's not necessarily based around specifications and spreadsheets and performance graphs. I'm going to answer how will you feel with one of these on your wrist, and that is often about more than battery life and pixels. That said, these are both the thick end of £1,000, and so you are clearly getting a lot of tech that you should understand. So my recommendation for that side of things is to check out DC Rainmaker. I'll stick a link to his reviews in the description. That is where you're going to get a detailed breakdown of what you're getting for your money. But you won't get many jokes, and it's been ages since I've seen him use a Rambo clip, so I'd like to think that we complement each other nicely. So despite not wanting to focus on the nitty-gritty, let me just highlight some of the key bits of information that you do need to know in order to make sense of what I'm going to run through. The Fenix 7 comes in three sizes, 42mm for the S model, 47mm standard, and 51mm for the X, which I wear. The X has solar power as standard because it doesn't come in the non-solar base spec available on the other two. So if you want solar power on the smaller models, you'll need to avoid that base specification. But whether you have solar or not, the battery life on any Fenix is very, very good. For example, in Smartwatch mode, the smallest Fenix without solar is going to get you 11 days, right up to 37 days for the big X with some sunshine. The Epix, with that nice display running permanently, will be flat before the end of the week, 6 days. Perhaps more relevant is running the watch with multi-band GPS, so maybe out on an ultra run or a real long bike ride or a hike. There, the smallest non-solar Fenix is going to get you 15 hours right through to 41 on the X. That display on the Epix is going to put you down around 15 hours, so comparable to the smallest Fenix, but miles behind the other two. Also note that the Epix only comes in a 47mm, so no small or big version, and that's pretty much it. Oh, and on the Fenix, you also get a little built-in flashlight. So it's easy to see why some people have summarised the choice as coming down to battery versus screen. Right, let's start with the easy bit. Who is definitely not going to like the Epix and can jump straight to the Fenix? Anyone like me, for a start. I took the Epix out of the box, I held it in my hand, I turned it over a couple of times, and if I weren't going to be making a video about it, I wouldn't have even bothered turning it on. On paper, the difference in size and weight between the 47mm Epix and the 51mm Fenix is negligible, but in the hand, you notice it immediately. The Epix feels dainty in comparison. The skinny strap, the thinner bezel. It's not a small watch, but it doesn't have the reassuring heft that the 7X has. On the wrist, it's the same. It just doesn't have the same presence. And that may be just because what I'm used to. In fact, when I'm not wearing this, most of my other watches are equally chunky. A random example, I'm wearing a G-Shock Frogman. I wear a Seiko Monster 5, a Mudmaster. Even my wind-up watch is pretty big. So I'm used to a bigger watch. But still, the first thing that Jenna, my wife, and one of my kids said when they saw me wearing the Epix was, wow, that's much smaller than the other one. It is a more subtle look. So very simply, if you're somebody who just likes a big hunk of a watch and you're not looking to smuggle it out of a Vietnamese prison camp anytime soon, The 7X is really your only choice. If you go the Epix, every time you catch a glimpse of it in a mirror, you're going to think, looks a bit small. On the flip side, if you wear the smaller Fenix, the S, the difference between that and this is about the same again, and you might well find the Epix is too big. I actually thought the Jenna, who wears a Fenix 6S, might like the Epix because of the way she wears the Fenix, which I'll come on to in a moment. But the minute she put this on, she said, no way, simply too big. Now, she's a 5'6", 120-pound woman. I'm a 6'6", 220-pound man. So that still leaves a lot of people in the middle who have a decision to make. And there it comes down to, firstly, are you going to bump into battery life issues? Because that's really the main feature that, if lacking, could cause you real problems. If you're 14, 15 hours into a 100-mile ultra run with the Fenix, how pretty it looks will not be on your mind. But if you have the Epix and it flashes up with a low battery warning, your day is going downhill. Now, in theory, that's just a case of looking at the battery life charts. Again, check out the link to DC Rainmaker below in the description. He's done all of those. And you then work out whether the activities that you may do will be covered by the battery life of your chosen device. But actually, there's a bit more to it than that. First of all, if you think the longest you may need to track an activity is easily covered, don't forget that will mean assuming it's fully charged. One of the great things about the 7X for me is if I'm going out to run a 3 or 4 hour run tomorrow, 99 times out of 100, this thing is going to be good to go, whatever I did with it today. But with the Epix, I would need to check properly. How much juice has it got left? Is it sensible to go and stick it on charge? And it probably will be more often than not. Now, would that annoy you? It would me. Also, the battery life shown for the devices are when they are new, and all batteries will lose efficiency over time. So if this is a long-term purchase, don't expect to be getting the same length of charge in 2 or 3 years' time. So ultra runners, Ironman triathletes, multi-day hikers, people that don't like charging things up, get a Fenix, ideally one with solar, and even better the X. Battery is now a non-issue for you, which still leaves people not looking to track endless hours of an activity and happy to stick a watch on charge now and then, and that's probably still most people. For you, there is the smartwatch issue and the feel issue. These will be what make you take one over the other. The smartwatch issue first. I already said I often wear other watches, so the Fenix is not on my wrist 24/7. As a result, I don't take full advantage of some of the clever fitness tracking metrics that need constant data to work best. Pretty much it goes on my wrist when I want to track exercise, and it then comes off when I fancy sticking something else on instead. The only time I wear this 24/7 is for a couple of days at most after a really strenuous event. For example, after my 100k ultra run last year, I wore it for 2 days to make sure that my body battery, my heart rate variability, those measurements were trending positively upwards and showing that I was recuperating well and could then judge when to get back into the gym. Although I now have an Aura ring, which is on 24/7, so I might not even need that for the Fenix going forward. So although I'm often looking at the watch, it is to start a run or check my pace or see how far I've cycled. In contrast is how Jenna uses her 6S, which is what made me think that she might like the Epix had it not been too big. She never takes the watch off unless she's dressing up to go out, and so she interacts with it all day long. She's checking her steps, calorie burn, reading text messages, looking at weather predictions, paying for her skinny latte with GARMIN contactless, very much using it like a smartwatch user as well as an exercise tracker. And so for her, how that display looks is a bigger deal. And I can see how, if I wore the watch in that way, that Epix display would be a nice thing to be looking at that often, because it does look very nice. I can imagine if it were my only watch, an all-day smartwatch, it would be a pleasure to interact with. And jumping between that and my iPhone 13, the only other screen that I look at all day, they would feel very in keeping with one another. My only slight issue is that the smaller screen is a little bit more fiddly to use in touchscreen mode just because there's less real estate to be jabbing your finger at, but I'm sure I would get used to that. And the upside of being smaller is that you could wear it out and about to a nice restaurant, say. Not my choice because you'd still look like somebody wearing a smartwatch to a nice restaurant, but if you're doing that with this, you look like you're about to order something to carb load with and then skip dessert and pop a couple of amino acids, and that is worse. So if you're somebody for whom this is your only watch and it fits you and you're happy to wear it most of the time, ideally overnight if you want to take advantage of sleep tracking, and you like the idea of the smartwatch thing, it's not quite an Apple Watch in that regard, but it's such a better sports watch than the Apple Watch, you'll forgive it that, then the Epix is probably the one. Against the 47mm Fenix, it's just going to be a nicer watch to live with. And the 51mm Fenix, that's just too big to wear in that way. The 7X in bed, for example, is a nightmare. You toss and turn at 2 AM, you whack your partner in the back with something that big and heavy, insert your own jokes. So even if a future version of the X had the AMOLED screen, I wouldn't use it 24/7. So for that type of use, the comparison is the 47mm Epix and the 47mm Fenix. And it'd be very easy to think, because those two are so similar, battery aside, surely you go for the Epix. But hang on, because lastly there is feel. And you will either get this or you won't. Let's say the 47mm Epix fits you and you do want to take advantage of wearing it routinely, smartwatch style, and you don't think the battery life is a problem. Most people in that situation are going to buy it and be very, very happy with it. But there will be a small number of people for whom that vivid display and the knowledge that the Fenix exists out there as an alternative, they combine to put them off. And I've already heard of a few people where this has been the case. They've already swapped from an Epix to a Fenix. Who are those people? What are they thinking? Possibly this. At the end of this week, I'm in Manchester. I'm racing in a high rocks fitness competition. At some point, I'm going to be stood on the start line next to some serious athletes. I'll be nervous, excited. Jenna stood with the spectators, leaning over the barrier, screaming, "Game time, mother!" She gets very animated, and I'll be poised to hit the start button on this, ready for when the gun goes off. And if someone next to me looks across to weigh up the competition and sees me like that, they see my watch, they're going to think, "Oh, this guy means business, good job we're not playing goat football." And does he know that crazy woman yelling at him? But if I was wearing the Epix, they may catch a glimpse of that display and think, "Ooh, makes me want to buy a skinny latte." Now, if that makes no sense to you, get the Epix, it is lovely. But if you think, yeah, I want to feel like I'm wearing a tool, not a gadget, then Fenix it is. And if you get the X, you also get the little flashlight, which I've actually used every single day, finding light switches, looking for something in the cupboard, bizarrely useful. Talking of which, I hope you found this useful. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe if you've not already done so. If you have any comments or any feedback, questions, stick them down below as always, unless it is to tell me that it was a sheep, not a goat in Rambo 3. I know, I was trying to be comedic, goats are just funnier.